Hi guys and welcome to another DB video. Today we are reacting to the darkest moments of TV.
History.
Jeez. Where the bummer clap the crow?
Chrome. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, it's ready.
it's
Set up.
ready. Ready, steady. Are you ready to go?
Y'all ready for this? Dun, 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 dun. What was that? Look like a mudslide or
It was a typical day in the world of daytime television. Infomercials, soap operas, and highly scripted legal shows filled viewer
something. Just Judy.
screens, with one of the more popular at the time being a
Just
program
Christina.
called Christina's Court.
Today in Christina's Court.
The show centered around a woman named Christina Perez, giving counsel and advice to those wrapped up in legal
She's not a real
drama.
judge.
And on this particular
Yeah,
morning,
it was
comedian
all
Sean
TV show,
Harris
innit?
would be
Expect
featured filing
antagonist.
suit
Just Judy's a
against
real
his
judge.
ex-girlfriend in
Yeah.
the hopes
Yeah,
of
she was in
recouping
family courts
unpaid
before she
rent.
got a TV
Every
show.
month it would be something different, you know.
Like
I'm
what?
like, I ain't got it this month because I got to do this or that. And I'm like, man.
So you let her go 9 months without paying rent?
Now, like I said, these shows were very obviously scripted, at least to some degree, and with Sean himself being a professional comedian, it led to countless funny moments and what turned out to be one of the show's more iconic episodes, with by far the most
Bro,
memorable
look at the
moment
security guard.
coming at the very
Nigga
end,
buff.
when things seemed to deviate from the script.
Constantly like a child in my
People
own
in
house.
love, they yell at each other all the
Oh,
time.
that's
They
true.
don't have
Ask him.
nothing to
He's
do
been
with it.
married for how long?
Over 20 something years.
Over
Look at
27
him though.
years.
He look mad. He look happy, brother. He look happy.
I've never seen this show.
Here, we see the comedian take aim at Christina's bailiff, a man named Renard Spivey, who was an integral part of the show, being the judge's sidekick for years and
So he done
years.
something.
Though it wasn't
Where's
often
this
that he
going? I
found
can't
There's
himself
guess.
at the
something
end of
wrong
a
in it.
joke like
The
this,
security.
as Sean
Yeah.
suggests
Got
that
arrested.
Renard looked
Oh my days.
unhappy when it was revealed that he had been married for over 27
He
years.
beat up his wife this time.
He's very happy.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Let's get back to the
I think
claim.
he beat up his wife or something, bro.
All in all, it made for a rather charming moment, with viewers adoring the lighthearted jab aimed at one of the show's most beloved characters. Though no one could have known at the time just how true that joke about his happy marriage would turn out to be.
Still developing tonight, a Harris County Sheriff's deputy facing serious charges. 63-year-old Renard Spivey
He's
accused of
63
killing his
years old.
wife, 52-year-old
Nigga
Patricia
rich.
Killed
Spivey,
his wife.
after
He
an
killed
argument.
her.
Whoa. I thought it was just beating up, fam.
Don't they do background checks or something?
How did it go back?
You have to skip back in it. Just press J.
Developing tonight, a Harris County Sheriff's deputy facing serious charges. 63-year-old Renard Spivey accused of killing his wife, 52
Killing his
Ah.
wife,
Spivey,
bro.
after an argument that turned
Bruh.
KPRC Channel 2's Bill
He's gone in jail
They
for
can even
life.
notice
On
it on
July
TV, bitch.
28,
I'm gonna kill you.
2019, over a decade after the
Wow.
aforementioned program aired, Renard Spivey was confronted by his
I
wife
thought it was just
Patricia
beating,
about what
man.
she
You know them
believed to
ones.
be steroid use or perhaps even infidelity. And in the midst of this heated argument, Spivey would draw his gun and shoot his wife once in the arm and then in the chest. Shortly
He took
after,
his job
police would find
serious.
her lifeless body crumpled in their bedroom
He took his
closet.
job serious.
Maybe he was
Now,
on the
after
steroids
years and
before he
years
was
of taking
taken.
part in this once famed legal show, Spivey can be found alone in his prison cell,
Sad.
where he'll likely remain
He's
for
in
the
jail
next
now.
14 years of his life for murdering
When
the
was this?
woman that
You
he
remember when this
was
happened?
so happily married to, turning what was once
2015
one
or
of
something.
Christina's Court's most iconic
Not
moments
sure.
into one of the
21
darkest
years from now.
examples of
Check it, fam.
irony in all of
What was his
television
name?
history.
I don't remember.
Hmm?
I don't remember.
What did he say?
Christina's Court Security. It's Christian.
Huh?
You put Christian, bro.
Spell it for me then.
T-I-N-A-S
Yeah. N-A.
Court Security. Oh, look, it's this.
Bailiff.
This.
He's listening to us, man.
Probably
What's
enough
his
people
name,
have
though?
Googled it. Security name. Bailiff. Yeah, you're right.
What is it? There. What's his name? Calvin
Was that his name?
Dickinson.
Janice Dickinson went on it.
Is that his name? Calvin. What's his name, bruv?
Hold on, put bailiff instead.
What, it's not even saying it.
Court TV star keys. They might put his name in that. I don't
James
want to rewind
Gordon,
the
that's
video
it.
again. James Gordon.
Yeah, that's it.
Corden?
Corden. James Corden.
That's not James Corden.
That is, look. Can't even name two of his what?
Two of
Cameramen.
his cameramen. James Corden is somebody else. The late night TV host. Gavin and Stacey and all that.
Well, what's his name, fam?
Let me look at it.
Renard Spyman, that's it. Is that
Renard
him?
Spivey.
That's it. Yeah, yeah.
What do we want his name for? I can't remember.
What was he researching his name for, bro?
I don't remember. Oh, to see how long he got
Yeah,
for the
let's see.
murder.
How long did he get in it?
21 years. If it was 2015.
No, when did he go in? That's it.
Spivey.
Spider.
There you go. Spivey sentence. Yeah. The actual date of his serving time in prison is unknown. As of today, he remains to serve his punishment for killing his wife. He is currently
What are you reading?
the top link. New evidence confirms him guilty. Well, you already charged him and put him in jail. And carry on looking for evidence at that point.
2019, bro.
He's only a few years old.
Yeah, that's when he done it. The incident
And the
that killed
couple was
him.
usually seen fighting. Right?
Bruh.
But it doesn't say how long his sentence was for.
No.
Or at least these people don't know what it is.
He's 63. He was 63 years old when the thing happened.
The dude on YouTube said at least another 14 years or something. That's why I was wondering, do you get 21 years for
Find a
murder?
good woman, you got to hang on for dear.
Most
Jay?
iconic moments
Yeah, J
into one of the
backwards
darkest
and
examples
L
of irony
forward.
in all of
I
television
think K is to
history.
pause.
When you find a good woman, you got to hang on for dear life because then it's hard to find
Sorry,
a
I
good
hate
one.
the bar
So
on
my
the
advice
screen,
is
fam.
happy woman, married woman.
I should write that effect is actually
Before
gonna
we
be
get any
hilarious now.
further, I want to thank
I want to see
SYCO for
something.
sponsoring this video and in turn making this dark
Okay, we'll just
confusing
skip the sponsors.
Civic other brand of hunt
Yeah,
can
trust
and interest in for
me.
years.
Sponsor.
Really new
We ain't getting
seemed
paid
well
for that.
The world of
This what?
television is an
What did
interesting
it say there?
one. Despite the
Television?
highly controlled
Titsushi
Tetsushi
Yanagindi Toru.
Yanagiga's 4. This sounds.
Titsushi Yanagindi.
Is this that
the world
Japanese
of
dude they made
television is an
the
interesting one.
sweepstakes
Despite
for
the highly
like years?
controlled and well-polished products
Titsushi
that we're typically used
Yanagandi
to seeing on our
Aeroport.
screens,
That's what I
there have
read
been
as
a
well.
surprisingly
Pretty
high
sure that's his
number of
name, bro.
deeply
Why
disturbing
are you laughing? That
moments
was
that have
spot on.
happened when on air.
That's
This
his
potentially
name,
new
fam.
series aims to highlight some of the most disturbing. And what better way to start than with a relatively unknown case that has haunted me for years?
Is she a
Titsushi
beekeeper?
Yanagindi Aeroport.
Saturday, June 14th, 2008, a Japanese TV
Say
station
it,
called
bro.
Television
Say
Miyazaki
it in the
Tatsushi
Japanese. Say
began
it
Yarafuchi.
in
live
Japanese.
programming,
Tatsushi
which on this day
Yarafuchi.
was set to feature a game show like
Titsushi
segment in the
Yanagindi
remote
You
voice
got
Aeroport.
activated
from
Takachi
pit your stomach,
Kochi.
bro.
The game itself was simple. Competitors stood
Tatsushi
back to back on
Yarafuchi.
a small wooden stand above the shallow muddy water
Titsushi
below, and when given the
Yanagindi.
cue, they would attempt to shove their opponent
Oh
into
wait,
the
is this
water
Takeshi's
without
cast? What did
turning
he
their
say?
bodies
Let's watch
around.
this shit.
In the end, the one left standing on the platform would be declared the winner, with the loser being left humiliated in the mud.
They made them rub butts.
Whoever gets pushed in the mud.
What's shocking
Round
about this?
one goes off without a hitch, resulting in the losing contestant being covered head to toe in a thick brown sludge, with the whole
I
atmosphere
actually dove
perfectly
into that water, bro.
encapsulating the ccraziness and
Oh
high
yeah.
energy charm
Oh no,
that
I'm
you would expect
falling.
from a Japanese game show made at the
What is
time.
it in her
And
mouth?
so far, everything
Yeah.
was all in good fun. With this
Looks like it's on a
excitement only
T-throw.
escalating as the contestants convince one of the show's hosts, a man named Tatsuchi Yanagita, to join in on the competition.
She's gonna slap him with mud.
It took some convincing, but eventually Tetsuchi agrees to compete, much to the enjoyment of everyone spectating. And from there, the comedy writes itself, as immediately after the round starts, it's apparent that he stood little to no chance.
It's already dipped that way, bro.
And upon instantly losing his balance, Tatsuki reacts in a split second and dives off the platform, landing
He breaks his
headfirst
neck.
into the muddy water below, which causes his body to fall limp.
Oh gosh.
Huh?
Oh gosh. What did he do? He broke his neck.
The water that he had just dove into was merely 6 inches deep, with the rest consisting of a thick layer of mud, which his head would strike directly, instantly causing his neck to break. And in that very moment,
Bro, that's not funny. He died. He's dead. That's not funny.
Look, you're the TV, you're the TV show presenter, man. No, you know how deep that water
They
is.
look. They're all standing in it. He must know. That's not deep water. What was he thinking, man?
What was diving like he's
They
diving in
peer
the
pressured him, and then he was trying to just go along with the fun, and then
bro,
he went a
bro,
bit
bro,
overboard.
man
Like,
dived in it like he was diving into the like, swimming pool, man.
man.
Like, you
Maybe
remember,
he
you
thought it'd
remember,
be
you
too
remember
thick
when we
to.
used to go private school swimming?
Yeah,
The diving
year
boards,
four.
the diving boards.
I never been on a diving board.
It's like jumping off that, bro. What are you doing, bro? Look at that position. Obviously, you're gonna break your neck, bro.
Yeah, his face should have been up. I don't know why he's tilted his whole body that
and
way.
Tatsuchi would be irreversibly paralyzed,
It's
leaving him
ghost, bro.
unable to
What are you
move from the
checking,
neck
man?
Pull
down.
his head out of the water at
It's
least.
a
You know?
Jesus
tragic
Christ.
accident. However, the
Look how
accident
he's
itself
standing as well.
is far from the
Bro.
most awful part of this live broadcast, with that coming immediately after. Unaware of Tatsuchi's severe injury, the crew believed that he was merely playing a prank on them and just joking around, and so they left him there, face first in the water,
They
proceeding
Mm.
left
to
him
shove
there,
his
bro.
face even deeper and deeper into the
Oh my
mud,
God.
splashing even more on top of his head to rub in the fact that he had lost.
Mm.
They had no idea that during their
Yeah, he's
antics,
paralyzed now.
Tatsuchi was in a desperate fight for survival, as in those 6 inches of water, he was slowly drowning, and completely unable to pick up his head to
Drowning
breathe.
in 6 inches of water.
This
They
lasted for an
fucking sticking his head
excruciatingly
into the
long
thing,
15
man.
They thought he was
seconds
joking,
before
didn't
they
it?
began
Yeah,
to
but what
bow
kind
his
of
head
joke
back
is that, man?
down and eventually pull
Yeah,
Tatsuchi's
this is
face
when
out
we
of the
good
water.
joke.
But this reprieve was short-lived, as the
Come on.
contestants proceed to drop him back into the mud face first.
They threw him in back into the water. Don't mess with these Japanese
It
reality
is
shows,
so
bro.
incredibly painful to watch, and made all the more disturbing with the over-the-top hysterical laughter coming from everyone around him, who are completely oblivious to the situation in front of
You're
them.
fucking.
Finally, after
I'm
2 hours of
horrified and
deep
you can't
drowning,
stop laughing,
Tatsuchi is
so.
hoisted above the water, and the camera switched back to the main broadcast, ending
He's
both
alive.
Tatsuchi's and the
Mm.
viewers' pain. By some stroke of good fortune, Tatsuchi would survive the ordeal, but just
Oh.
barely, as it's estimated that even just a few more seconds in that mud would have likely led to his death. But thankfully, this wasn't the case, and according to his Facebook page, Tatsuchi has learned to live with his body-wide paralysis, and even went on to
Mm.
rejoin the show years later in some capacity, ending this entry off on somewhat of a bright spot, despite this
Body-wide
otherwise being one of the
paralysis.
more
I
unsettling
can't
and
imagine.
appalling broadcast accidents that I've ever
All
seen.
just over as a joke as well.
Villain.
Shut up, man.
On the topic of broadcasts that have left an impression on my life, I would say none have had more of an emotional impact than a story run by 60 Minutes about a man named Donald Herbert. The story starts back in
Talking about first
1995,
names.
just 4 days after Christmas, when a fire broke out in a home in Buffalo, New York. In an attempt to put out the blaze, firefighter Donald Herbert was standing on the roof of the building when suddenly it gave way. As a result, Herbert would fall into the attic where he would be trapped in the smoke, unable to breathe. He would lay there without oxygen for 6 whole minutes before they finally were able to pull his body to safety, with the
Why are they
whole
putting out
ordeal being
fires on
filmed and
live
shown
TV?
on local news. Somehow,
Trying to
Herbert
find a way
managed
in,
to
I guess.
survive this
Mate,
accident, but being without air for that long caused him to lose most of his brain
stop
function,
laughing
leading
at
to
the
him
dead
spending the
folks.
following years in a minimally conscious state, unable to eat, unable to
He must have been
breathe,
trying to
and
find a way
seemingly
in.
unable to understand the world
I mean,
around
clearly it
him.
was a terrible
Eventually,
decision
his
for
condition
him,
led to
but
him being placed in a nursing home, where a feeding
he's
tube
just trying
was
to
the
do his
only thing
job.
keeping him alive. For all
So
Hey,
intents
you,
and
bro.
if you were a fireman,
purposes,
you
the
wouldn't
man
climb
was
onto somebody's house
gone.
to try and help
But
them.
then,
He
something
wasn't a
happened.
fireman.
On
Wait,
April
what?
20th, 2005,
Wait,
a
what?
He
stag.
was no fireman, bro. He was on top of the roof before the fire started.
He was a fireman.
No,
Yeah,
that's not what he said.
I swear that's what he said.
Nah, fam.
Man named Donald Herbert.
Good
The story
fireman.
starts back in 1995, just 4 days after Christmas, when a fire broke out in a home in Buffalo, New York. In an attempt to put out the blaze, firefighter Donald Herbert was standing on the roof of
Oh,
the building when
He didn't
suddenly
just climb
it gave
somebody's burning
way.
house,
As a
oh, I
fam.
thought
result,
it was
Herbert would
someone
fall
else
into the
standing
attic
on
where
top
he
of the
would be
roof
trapped
and
in the
he dropped it
smoke,
in the
unable to breathe.
house.
He would lay
I'm
there
sorry.
without
My
It's
oxygen
not a
bad.
for
cartoon,
16
fam.
minutes before they finally were able to pull his body to safety, with the
My
whole ordeal being
misunderstanding it.
filmed and shown on local
I didn't
news.
know it was a fireman.
He
Somehow,
was trying to
Herbert
save
managed
him,
to survive this
and he
accident,
lived.
but being without air for that long caused him to lose most of his brain function, leading to him spending the following years in a minimally conscious state, unable to
Minimally
eat,
conscious. I've
unable
never
to
heard that
breathe,
before.
and seemingly unable to understand the world around him. Eventually, his condition led to him being placed in a nursing home, where a feeding tube was the only thing keeping him alive. For all intents and purposes, the
He was
man
dead.
was gone. But then,
Yeah, how long do you
something
keep somebody
happened.
you love alive like that, man? I think I'd rather be
On
dead.
April 20th, 2005, a staggering 9.5 years after his accident, Donald Herbert woke up. In the
He
nursing
was in
home
a
where he had
coma
spent most of the years
for 9.5 years.
unresponsive,
He
he would
was
suddenly
minimally
turn to a
conscious, they
nurse and
said.
ask for his wife
I've never heard the
Linda,
term, but I
while
guess like
displaying
a
signs of
coma.
being fully lucid, which prompted the staff to immediately call his family, who rushed to see him. And sure enough, despite Herbert being completely blind, he was not
Oh,
only
he ended
fully
up blinded.
responsive, but recognized almost all of his family members. The moments following were all captured by cameras and later shown on an episode of 60
Mm.
Minutes, with the footage
Oh,
being some
Anderson
of the
Cooper did
hardest
60
hitting
Minutes.
and emotional that I've personally ever seen.
How long have I been gone?
Quite a while, pal. Quite a while. 10. 10 years.
Mm.
The pain in discovering that he had been gone for 10 years, all that time missed, robbed
Mm.
from a man who was just doing his job, is indescribably gut-wrenching. But it's what happens after this footage that proves to be the most upsetting part. For nearly 16 hours, the newly awakened man spoke with his family, catching up on every little detail that he had missed. And though from that point on he had moments going in and out of his lucidity, his long-term prognosis actually seemed hopeful. Throughout the next few weeks, Donald was surrounded by family members at all times, not only to take advantage of every single second that Herbert was awake, but also for his own safety as well, as since his awakening, he would thrash violently in his sleep, as if he still believed he was trapped in that blaze.
Oh, mate,
So to
that
ensure his
sounds like torture.
safety, at least one family member would be stationed with the man while he slept. Though on one night, one of the family members on duty had grown too exhausted to stay any longer, and from the first time since he became lucid, Donald Herbert was left alone. And during that night, he would again start to thrash violently, with Herbert flailing so hard that he would fall out of his bed and strike his head against the floor,
Oh,
causing his
God.
brain to start bleeding. From that moment on, Donald Herbert would never become lucid again, and as a result of his injuries,
That's
he would
fucked
pass
up.
away 1
After
year
all
later
that,
from pneumonia.
imagine being the family member that left him. I'd never forgive myself.
That's
Never
crazy.
thought that such a horrendous thing could happen. Obviously, we would have stopped.
I don't know how many more
Twilight
of these I could
Zone.
take.
Throughout its lengthy run,
Wow,
this television series
that's
provided some of
crazy.
the most entertaining and memorable moments in all of television. But for this section, I'm going to be cheating a little bit, as rather than looking at an event surrounding the show itself, I'll be highlighting the far less memorable movie version of the series. Simply
Seen either.
named Twilight Zone the Movie, the film was broken up into multiple sections serving as sort of an anthology work with 3 separate storylines. And for the sake of
Looks
this
so
story,
old.
only one section and
Probably the
really only
80s.
one
Yeah,
scene
it's
bears
weird for my eyes,
description.
bro.
The
I've
scene was
movies like this
intended to
since
simulate a
living
battle
with
in
my
the
mom.
Vietnam War, in which the protagonist, a character played by actor Vic Morrow, is attempting to outrun an attack helicopter and escape the area. The footage was intended to serve as the section's dramatic conclusion, with it being described as the following. In the scene that served as the original ending,
He's gonna
Bill,
get
the
chopped up.
character portrayed by Morrow, stumbles into a deserted Vietnamese village, where he finds 2 young Vietnamese children left behind when a US Army helicopter appears and begins shooting at them. Morrow was to take both children under his arm and escape out of the village, as the hovering helicopter destroyed the village with multiple explosions. Based on that description alone, shooting the scene was going to be
This is a
tricky and
film.
likely a very
Yeah,
intense process on the set,
the
as
Twilight
all the
Zone
effects
movie.
used were set to be done practically, meaning that they would require an actual helicopter and real pyrotechnics. Not only this, but the director, a man named John Landis, wanted to use actual child actors for the scene, which, given that it was planned to take place at
This is how
night
people
and
get
near
shot on set, fam.
explosions, was technically illegal in the state of California. Despite the laws in place, however, Landis decided to shoot the scene regardless, enlisting 7-year-olds Mika Din Lee and 6-year-olds Renee Shin Yi Chen to play the roles of the Vietnamese children. And with all the
And they
pieces
died,
now in
innit?
place, the
Surely.
cameras began to roll on what was set to be the stunning conclusion to this particular section.
It's horrifying. Surprised you can show these on YouTube. Usually you've already seen a man die.
As the scene starts, the
But it's because
spectacle of it all
past tense
can't be
story, innit?
understated, as the
Definitely.
lighting,
Hmm?
setting, and the
Past tense story
pyrotechnics
there,
truly
innit?
set a
Still
haunting
is graphic.
tone. However, unbeknownst to the production team, there was a major problem developing. As stated prior, all the effects you see here are real, and during the scene there was an actual helicopter flying just above the actors, which by itself was already very dangerous, and made even more so due to the pyrotechnics. For the pilots, the explosions launched in the air created fireballs in the sky, making things much more difficult to navigate, but those on the ground were never made aware of this. And being pressed to make things look even more and more intense, the crew decided to double down on their explosions, launching 2 massive charges back to back, a decision that proved to be a costly one, as the second
I
blast
imagine.
was so strong that it dislodged the helicopter's tail prop, causing the craft to spin uncontrollably. And within mere seconds, as the cameras roll on the 3 actors trudging their way through the water, the
That's
craft
crazy.
crashes directly on top of them.
Oh,
Somehow,
The
everyone on board
what?
the
The
helicopter
what? The what? The plane crashes on top of the kids.
the helicopter fell on them all 3 of them
What, the
underneath.
kids?
Yeah, he's holding the kids under his arms and trying
And
to
the
run with them.
helicopter fell on top of them.
The explosions blinded them, and then it knocked the tail of the helicopter off,
Oh.
landed on them, and then he's about to say the next bit that happened.
survived the wreck, though those on the ground weren't so lucky, as in one
Jesus
split
Christ.
second, the blade of the helicopter slashed into Vic Morrow and Mika Din Lee, instantly decapitating them. And as the craft slammed to the ground, Renee Shin Yi Chen would
I
Did
swear
you
to
hear
laugh
that, bro?
about.
Did you hear that,
Yes.
bro? Man said the helicopter decapitated them.
One of the man and one of the children. I don't know what happened to the other
It
one.
was 2 children, I said. That's what he
He
said.
had 2 children, but
Yeah, but
him
it's,
and one of the children was decapitated. The third one, we don't know what's even happened to them.
be crushed
oh,
beneath its massive weight.
I guess they got
In one
crushed.
frame, there were 3 living actors, and in the next, there were none. In retrospect, it's not hard to see the red flags and the dangerous
Yeah,
practices
surely they
being
could have
used by the
foreseen
production
all the
team.
danger of just
However,
blowing up
following
things right
several
next to a
long legal
helicopter.
battles, no one would be found liable in the
Of
deaths of
course
the
not.
3 actors,
Hollywood's too
and Landis
powerful, bro.
himself would go on to enjoy an incredibly successful career. The Twilight Zone film would eventually be released years later, only with a different ending.
I'm shocked. Of course they still release it though. They're not gonna waste the whole movie they shot.
I'll fight force with force.
Our final story takes us to the quaint countryside of Buttsfield, England, where a man named Albert
Buttsfield,
Dryden
where's that?
had been living a very solitary life. Following his retirement from steelworking, Albert dedicated his life to building.
I've never heard of it.
Gago. Gago. Where are you, Gago? Buttsfield, England. How do you write it? Butts.
I have no idea. I've never heard of it.
Fields. Buttsfield,
Yeah,
England.
unless that's how you spell it. That definitely says Wattsfield.
Where's that?
Wattsfield is a village in County Durham.
Where?
County Durham.
County Durham.
Yeah. You can ask me where that is. I still don't know.
No, I don't want to go on the maps.
I thought you wanted to know where it was. Zoom out.
Huh?
Just
How do you
zoom
do
out.
that?
Or the other way. You can pinch the other way. West Buttsfield.
East
Hatley.
Buttsfield.
Hornsey.
Saltley. Cornsey. Lancaster. Ah, it's near Lancaster, though.
Where's Lancaster?
Wales side,
No, where is it? I can't see what you're seeing. Oh, there. Lancaster. That's somewhere else.
Lancaster, that's how you spell it. See?
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought Lancaster was spelled without an H.
No, it's spelled like that.
Okay.
Stanhope, St. John's Chapel.
Towlaw. These don't sound like Welsh places. Don't Welsh like have really long words and no vowels and shit?
Yeah, look, it's near Wales.
Middlesbrough.
Newcastle.
Sunderland. That's north. That's north of here. That's not in Wales. That's like Midland side. Look, we're down here.
Yeah.
Wales is down there, and that's like
That's where
the Midlands. Well, now we know where Buttsfield is. Let's
Hmm.
never go there.
Buttsfield.
DL13 4JA. County Durham.
See what it looks like. They probably got a statue with a butt
In the field.
in the town centre. Go to the place then.
You gotta zoom back in. Mate, you're terrible at this.
I am.
Let me do it.
Fuck this.
Well,
Just carry on with the video.
yeah, I agree. Let's do this.
Buttsfield.
Goodbye, Buttsfield.
I do not care about no Buttsfield.
Not anymore. It wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it.
Up a plot of land
I
which he
live in
had
North
purchased in
London,
the
mate.
area.
I don't care about
Southeast.
His
no
goal was to
I
construct
don't
a
care
new
about no
home for his
Buttsfield.
elderly mother, where she could live during the summers, while also planning to build some sort of fallout bunker on the same plot. But right from the start, he ran into issues,
Fallout bunker.
as his permit request to build these structures on his land was promptly denied. This did not stop Dryden, however, as despite
Hello,
complaining,
Uncle.
he began his
It looks like a
construction anyway,
captain of a
believing
ship.
he had found a workaround with the law, as rather than building the house in a standard manner, he instead dug a deep hole into the ground and began to construct his home there, labeling it as the home in a hole. Due to
Home
this,
in a
the
hole.
home
Hole
only
in a
stood
hole.
about 8 feet or so above the ground, which Dryden believed made the construction legal.
Right.
However, he was wrong in his assumption, and the building swiftly caused a disagreement between the man and the Derwentshire District Council, with this rift growing more and more amplified as time went on. In the midst of this ordeal, a man named Harry Collinson was appointed as chief of the council and assigned to handle the case as his first order
Nah, they were
of
fighting
business.
him on it,
And he
bro.
did so by initially sending Dryden a letter demanding that he stop construction and also tear down what he had already built. Dryden, however, decided to counter with a court appeal, which was swiftly denied, leading to the court's final order that
Swiftly.
the building be demolished within 3 months. It was around the same time that the local news began to document the ongoing feud between Dryden and the government, and despite the numerous
he
rulings
belongs on a
against
ship,
him,
fam, like a
Dryden
sailor.
still refused to give in to the government's
Captain of a boat.
demands, and eventually the council decided to take matters into
Just
their
built
own
one in a
hands
random hole.
and decided to demolish
Just
the
dug a random
structure
hole and built a
themselves.
house.
So on June 20th, 1991, same time that the local news began to document the ongoing feud between Dryden and the government, and despite the numerous numerous rulings against him, Dryden still refused to give in to the government's demands, and eventually the
It was not that one. It's not that
council
one.
decided to take matters into their own hands and decided to demolish the structure.
He built his house in a fucking swimming pool.
Themselves. So on
And he
June
thought that is
3rd,
what would make it
Emergency
legal.
1941,
parking spot.
Harry Collinson, a
Ah,
demolition
punch,
team,
Jesus.
and a group of police
Emergency parking
constables
spot.
traveled to the
On the
abandoned
roof,
building
Sam.
next to the structure.
He built a ramp
Before
to the
this
roof
group
for his
arrived,
car.
He's
a
got
decision was
underground
made that
parking.
should Dryden attempt to escalate the situation, they were to immediately
Man's
back
thought
off and
ahead,
come up
long
with
time
another
ago.
plan to avoid any sort of physical altercation.
Really, he's a genius, bro.
At the scene, numerous reporters had
Man
already
said, yeah.
begun gathering at the property
Build
line,
a swimming
including a
pool.
cameraman for the
My head
BBC, who was there to
I don't have
document the
enough
feud in real
water.
time. And right from the
I
start,
can't
it was
pay this
clear that
dangerous,
Dryden
bro.
was not going to be going down without a fight. The gate to his property was chain
He was
locked,
supposed
with
to build
Dryden
a
standing
house
behind
here
it,
next
next
to
to
the
two
swimming
letters
pool.
that proved to prove that he should be able to keep his structure intact, at least for the time being.
Read that as an official letter from the king. As an inspector came into this site in 5 weeks' time. No, it doesn't say that. Where does it say? Well, I have another letter confirming. Can you show me the other letter? I'm not going to show you the other letter, but there's a this
They're all
letter
standing in
coming
the
out in
swimming pool
5
right now,
weeks'
bro.
time. All that I'm asking is to wait 5 weeks for the outcome, maybe 6 weeks. It'll take a week after he's been out. I'm satisfied
That's
with
why he
that.
looks like he belongs on the
So,
waterfront. And then his house in the swimming
legality
pool.
of the enforcement officer, the inspector has confirmed. So I'll be waiting.
However, Dryden's request for more
You gotta
time
make
was
sure you don't
clearly
got your
falling on deaf
tickets.
ears, and
Huh?
Make
realizing
sure you
this,
don't
Dryden
forget your
began to grow
tickets.
more and more
The
agitated.
swimming
His
pool.
tone quickly turned
Don't
into
run around the
angry
edge of it.
excitement.
If you don't open the gate, now we'll obviously have to take the fence down with the machine. So if you want, you can have
You got no pay
some
for the
time to
swimming
remove the
pool.
fence yourself, minimize the damage. Can you do that? Any
Don't
damage
forget
that
your
could be
tickets.
caused as a result of you
We
preventing
have
the
a right
clearing
to swim.
would be your liability. Well, you might not be around to see the outcome of this. Now, you've been warned. Yes, I remember. Well, I'm not going to explain, but if you had any sense, you would go away now and wait 5 weeks for the outcome of that, right? That's my last word on it. If you show me the letter referring to... I can't show you. I've told you where the letter is.
At this point, based on the initial plan, the crew should have certainly pulled back, as it was now getting to the
Yeah,
point where
never.
Dryden was outright threatening Collinson, warning him that if he tried to
This
step
one's
on his
tickled you,
property,
fam.
something awful was going to happen. And though this did cause Collinson
He's
to take
gonna
a
shoot
few
somebody,
steps
isn't
back, he still remained steadfast in carrying out the task and remained on the edge of the property line, standing his ground even when Dryden escalates the situation even further.
he? I swear, I swear. Oh, punch, man. Wait, why does he have to keep farting in my face?
Punch! Go get the boxes! Push! Push!
My nigga, your ass stink.
Woo!
What the Lord don't know?
The gas starts.
Go ahead.
He's gonna shoot
You got to
somebody,
take
isn't
this
he?
gun.
He's got a gun.
He's got a gun.
As the two
He's
stand
right.
face to face, Dryden brandishes his
He's like, no
pistol
one's
and
coming
points
into
it
my
directly at
pockets.
Collinson, and wanting to ensure the
He's
man's
really gonna
position
shoot him,
was
Why
isn't
is
he?
it
about to
making
be
that large,
documented,
huh?
Collinson asks the cameraman
It's the
to quickly
perfect
fire
size.
his gun, which subsequently
I'm
became a
trying for this
showcase
for 10
moment.
years on water.
Can I shoot this gun?
Oh
In an
shit.
instant, with cameras rolling, Dryden fires a shot directly into the chest of Harry Collinson, and then fires another at the crowd standing before him, leading to things devolving into a chaotic scene of
He
running
told you
and
to get off his
screaming.
property, fam.
As more shots were fired from the
Smart
castle,
swimming pool. He's like Yosemite Sam, bro.
Dryden and Belmont ran for cover.
We were standing watching what was going on, and then a shot rang out. The chief kind of fell to the ground, and I felt a shot in the arm, and I
You
fairly get
should have
shot
gone
here in the
near
arm.
someone
As the camera crew
small
finally
car.
gets to a safe
You
distance and
get me? You
catches
should
their
have cut by
breaths,
someone.
it's revealed that both the journalist
Look at the
and
clouds, man. What are they
photographer
doing here right
indeed were
now?
struck in the
Who
arm,
swims on the
along
rivers
with
like
one of
this?
the officers. Though in the midst of all this carnage, we see no sign of Harry Collinson, as by this point he was likely still on the ground where he had originally
Man
fallen,
was like, we could
dead
blow
from his
up.
gunshot wound, with his final words being,
Can you get a shot of this gun?
following the incident, police would engage in a standoff with
I don't know what
Dryden,
you're
who
saying
attempted
now,
to
bro.
booby
You're
trap the
talking
young
in
man,
laughs.
along with other explosives on the
What are you
property,
saying?
though this would turn out to be a bluff, and eventually he would be grabbed by officers and taken into custody, where he would
You're asking him
subsequently
questions,
be
innit?
tried and
You're
Yeah.
saying,
sentenced
would you
to
like
life in
extra
prison.
pool with a
And
slide?
despite his actions on that day, Albert Dryden would go on to become somewhat of
I
a
told
national
you, I
hero,
like the
growing a
pool, how
legitimate
it
fan base
is.
for the way he stood up against the government. Dryden would live out his time in prison until 2017 when he suffered a massive stroke, to which he was let out on a compassionate release, with the man eventually passing
What's the point
away
of that?
just 1 year later.
You've
Though his
already
actions that
bulldozed this
day will
house to the
forever be
ground.
immortalized as one
How
of the
about
most
they built a leisure
notorious
centre
and darkest moments in
No,
television
the
history.
hospital, yeah, up there with
They
the
named it after him.
prison.
I want to give a big thank you to Scentbird for sponsoring this video. Make sure to check out those links.
Oh gosh.
Done.
Right. Scent bird, as
Thank
much
you
as we love
guys for
scents and
watching
stuff.
that. Don't forget to subscribe and like.
Like, subscribe, comment, man. Thanks for watching that. That last one, bro.
That was fun.
Just dug a hole in the ground to fucking build a house.